And now we have Ziyadin Cakir, a professor of geology at Istanbul Technical University, joining us live now. Thanks for being with us. You know, over the past few days, one thing that geologists and seismologists wanted to see was data from the fault line itself. They wanted to see pictures of it. They wanted to see how much movement. Are any of those questions starting to be answered quite yet?
There are a lot of people now, geologists, our colleagues and friends from different universities are now on the field trying to map the surface displacement, surface rupture produced by the earthquake itself. Earthquakes, because it's a double shock. But it's not easy because it's a very long, like 300 kilometers. The first one, and the second one to the north is 150 kilometers, and most are covered by snow. They're working and they're getting amazing pictures. The offsets of buildings and roads and fences and fields. Up to 8 meters, it's something that never had in this country. An offset of like 8 meters. I don't think we had this much of offset in following the 39 Erzincan earthquake. So it's big. It is very big, in fact.
That is fascinating. 8 meters of movement along that one fault. Was that likely to have been caused in tandem by both of them, or would a movement like that have been built up and happen after the first quake, which was a 7.7 magnitude?
Well, surprisingly, the maximum offset. The displacement, the horizontal 8 meter of displacement, is observed not in the big one, the first shock, but the second one to the north. Even though it's like a quarter or like half in land, the displacements are much more in the north. That means that that fault had been accumulating strain for a very long time. And so the one in the north, the south that ruptured the first, was accumulating strain like about 500 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Makes like, taking into account a 1 centimeter per year of loading, that makes like 5 meters, which is almost that much now observed. But the second shock, the fault that produced the second shock must have been, holding them, being loaded for like, I don't know, 800 years or something, perhaps.
Oh, that's incredible. So now that we've seen that extraordinary displacement, the movement itself along the fault that you said could be up to 8 meters, does that now... Oh, go ahead. Sorry, what did you say?
No, go ahead. It is measured, yes.
Yes. Okay. So we know it's around 8 meters. Does that now mean that an enormous amount of stress has been removed from that area, and that we're unlikely to see another large earthquake for a very long time? Or is it anyone's guess when the next one could happen?
Yes. On that fault, yes, for another 500 years, a millennia. But that amount of offset, of course, transfers stress to the neighboring faults, especially towards the edges of the rupture. That huge amount of displacement, carrying tons of billions of tons of rocks, pushing other rocks nearby. So it's a well-known mechanism, stress transfer. So especially the faults near the edges of the ruptures are still, potentially quite dangerous.
We've seen large earthquakes around the world in the past. What, in your expertise, really stands out to you about the mechanics of this one?
Well, there are, of course, we've experienced earthquakes of this kind in terms of mechanisms, in terms of land in China, and in the past along the San Andreas in California. especially in China. So magnitude 7.8, 7.9, these earthquakes can produce ruptures of this size. But in China, usually the areas are not much populated like we have here. So in terms of mechanism, etc., they are not very unusual. But what is very unusual here is that, especially compared to the earthquakes that happened along the North Anatolian Fault, is that, the two big and major earthquakes happened within 9 hours.
Right.
It was very unusual. I mean, because if you look at those earthquakes along the North Anatolian Fault starting from 39, so it was like 42, 43, 44, like every year, then 10 years, and lastly, 30 years after.
Yeah.
If you look at Izmit and Düzce, there was 3 months in between. So, I mean, this 9 hours is usually maybe if there's a small shock, before the main shock that preceding the event may trigger the main one. But this is not the case here because both are major earthquakes. Not on the same fault, but on 2 different faults, but nearby.
Yeah, it's so interesting.
I mean, all the people now from all over the world, the seismologists, earthquake geologists, are all now, very interested in this earthquake. They're trying to, work on the mechanism in terms of seismology, geology, on the modeling.
Right.
Attraction now by attracting people from all over the world, from China as well.
Definitely. Ziyadin Cakir, it's so good to talk to you. Thanks for sharing your expertise with us.